Hello, this is Shea speaking with Peter Wakefield in our series of astrological profiles of well-known people. And today we're covering Simon Cowell, born 7th to the 10th, 59 in London at 18:05 p.m. He has Taurus rising, Moon in Sagittarius, and obviously his sun's in Libra. And there probably isn't anybody in the whole universe who hasn't heard of Simon Cowell. Impresario, music mogul, and extremely good businessman, to say the least, because of his now mega successful television programs, X Factor and BGT. His rising sign is Taurus, his sun is in Libra, and his moon is in Sagittarius. It's noteworthy that he has no retrogrades in his chart whatsoever, and this, as we might have said before, is always indicative of somebody who can literally is facing no impediments, and they can race ahead in life and generally progress very easily. And certainly somebody like Simon Cowell has a massive piece of the action on behalf of other people. The first thing I want to say is this moon in Sag conjunct Saturn in the 8th talks about passionate pursuit of others in controlled situations. So but the other thing is that all the planets are under the line, so they're all in what we call the personal part of the scope in the first 6 houses, with the exception of the moon and Saturn in the 8th. So this is a very introverted person. This is an introvert, I think, almost pretending to be an extrovert. But Peter has a lot to say on perhaps his past life atavistic qualities, don't you, Peter?
Yes. Sun in Libra. Of course, Libra represents balance, and it does rule ancient Rome.
And it's in his 6th house with Mars, Mercury and Neptune.
Yes, it's conjunct Mars.
It is, and both are at detriment. Both Mars and Sun are supposedly at detriment, but it's not done him much harm here, in the success stakes at least.
One of the striking things about Simon is that he gives the impression that he has authority, which has come through from a previous life. And ancient Rome is of course where civilization began to establish itself through law, of course.
Yes.
Libra is the sign of law and judgment. And of course in ancient Rome they judged by elimination in the arena.
So the X Factor and stuff like that is an arena.
It's atavistic, which means it's a characteristic from the past coming into the present. And what is atavistic of Rome is when the Caesars or the emperor would cast rivals and gladiators against one another to the death. Only now in modern parlance, Lynn, it's on TV and is competition of talent rather than fighting for your life.
It is, but I often think that the point of death is emotional. It's an emotional arena.
Yes, it
is. And it's based a lot on the highs and lows and the utter sensationalism of not just the participants, but the crowd reaction to the participants. And why I think you're right in this, talking about this Roman atavism from a Roman incarnation, is because if you watch Cowell, he continually listens to what the audience thinks or says. He listens to the audience feedback before he gives judgment.
Yes, he's in analysis. He's balancing and judging and weighing.
He's
up
pleasing
constantly.
the crowd in a way as well as himself.
It's a fifth-rate characteristic, but in this life, Simon has to go through a method of purgation of this Roman karma of a specific kind. So the stellium of planets in Libra, Lynn, to my mind,
in that 6th house, as I keep saying,
tells
which is service, karma or devotion,
tells us that he has to be responsive to the balance of karma from this ancient situation where he's had Roman position of authority.
Do you think he's abused that power in the past?
Possibly, with that Mars conjunction and of Pluto's conjunction of Venus as well. the empire he has today is a chance for him to atone and to do things in a different way than they were in the past, for the cruel and perhaps barbarous methods that Rome was famous for.
Well, if I can just talk about the personal aspects of the personal effects for a minute of this Pluto conjunct Venus, which is in Virgo actually, but it's also squaring Jupiter in his 7th house at 0 degrees Sag. I think that 4th house Venus Pluto shows a compulsion or being compelled towards keeping his feelings very inwards. He isn't it's almost like he doesn't know how to take certain desires into a wider, again let's use the word arena.
Venus doesn't do well in Virgo, does it?
Well, Venus in Virgo is very modest and retiring and not and feeling not confident, I think. But with Pluto there'll be an outlet for that almost, but it's kept under wraps. It's almost as if in his personal life he can't make the central love the only love.
Yeah.
So there might be. This is a very private person, and to give him his due, I think he is quite private about his personal life.
He is quite modest in some respects.
Yes,
but
he
with
is
that
a strange and enigmatic mixture of modesty and arrogance.
Well, it re-echoes what I've just said.
Yes,
this conjunction of Pluto with Venus is that he does have some humility, which has come about this life. He's penitent these days for the undercurrents
He's definitely
from the past.
Undergone a change, hasn't he?
Definitely.
And I think this is since the birth of his son, maybe.
He's mellowed.
Yes, he has. I mean, age does that to people, but experience does it to people as well.
But Taurus rising as well. He's got that mellow,
laid back,
harmonious energy.
But there are more entrepreneurs and materially successful people with Taurus rising than you can shake a stick at.
Taurus rising likes the facts, which Simon does.
Likes the good life.
Has to be careful not to be indolent and rest on his laurels.
It shows very fixed opinions as well.
Loves a good life.
But I think that Taurus. The fixedness of Taurus in first decanate Taurus rising with Libra shows. I mean, his fairness. He's fair, but he's fairly inflexible, which is also Taurus rising.
But he can also be quite ruthless with that conjunction of Mars as well.
He can, because.
But he has mellowed that.
Well, I don't know. He's got Mars squaring his midheaven. His midheaven's in Capricorn 9th in equal house, and his Mars in Libra. So that judgment is always very shrewd. It's always very spot on. It's always very on the money, isn't it?
Yes.
He is the most realistic of all those judges on, say, Britain's Got Talent, for instance. Isn't he? He's most down to earth.
That Neptune opposing the ascendant re-echoes the emotional arena again, doesn't it?
Sorry, the what?
The emotional arena.
Which echoes it?
Neptune opposing the ascendant.
Neptune opposing the ascendant will have a rebound on his loyalties, or his the people that he makes strong loyal bonds with. Is that I think he'll have doubts about them. I think he has constant doubts about who is loyal and who is not.
What would Jupiter 0 degrees suggest to you? Because I've put here, Lynn, new cycle of wisdom, beginning to see the light in this life, atonement for Roman karma.
Well, any planet at 0 degrees lacks a grip, so there's no grip. So in Sagittarius, I think that in a way, the moon in Sag is always the entertainer, but he's got Saturn next to the moon, so he's far too reserved or inhibited to be an entertainer himself. Jupiter at 0 degrees Sag would show somebody who lives vicariously through the entertainment business. So this is what I mean about he's an introvert pretending to be more extrovert, and the most extrovert thing he can do from the safety of the sidelines is to promote entertainment.
And look at that conjunction of the moon with Saturn.
Yeah,
he's always come across as serious, mostly, hasn't he?
He's quite straight-laced, really.
Saturnine and very formal as well.
Formal, yeah.
But Capricorn in the midheaven, business.
Yeah, business head.
Business head.
That's why I'm saying squaring that Mars in Libra, his judgment is always spot on.
Yes,
yeah? From the 6th house. He's a workaholic.
That Capricornian archetypal energy is always hovering over him.
Or he has been a workaholic. I mean, he probably still is, because look at that loaded 6th house, Peter. That's got to show in his devotion to work and service. And really, what Cowell does is he does it for now a much wider level. So everything he does has massive repercussions on other people that he will never even dream about. People who fail in things like the X Factor or Britain's Got Talent, particularly the X Factor, which has been slated by some critics as being far too much for some people, particularly very young people.
Yes.
Can they take that emotional onslaught? And this is where it becomes like an arena. And I think that the thing, in a way, people watch because they want to cheer people on, but they also watch because they like humiliation, and people are very humiliated.
Well, it's the Colosseum again, isn't it?
It's the Colosseum.
It's the Colosseum all over again, and he loves that central, pivotal seat, the throne.
He does. The best thing,
and he judges very well on it.
I think the best thing to happen to him is,
and he'll often, another thing. Sorry to interrupt, but often he'll look around at the crowds to gauge their response.
That's what
and
I said.
he will often save his judgment for their reaction.
That's what I said earlier on.
Yes,
is he listens to the crowd.
That's right.
And this is why, and that's also what the Caesars used to do.
Yes, it's atavistic.
Because
it's thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yeah, but that spectacle in the arena, whether it's emotional or physical or what, is aimed at placating or pleasing crowds and gaining goodwill from the crowds. But I think Cowell now does it more as a business thing, because he wants to know what sells or what will make money.
Yes.
And I think he's got an infallible Geiger counter for knowing who will make money and who will sell. Definitely he's got a wide-reaching effect from his own ambition.
Yeah.
And he's got personal responsibility with this, because when we see the 6th house, we see people brought back to a certain type of service for karmic reasons, which you've expressed as, the Roman atavism. But the greater you become, the more responsibility you have. So I think he has to be careful about the responsibilities he has within the spectacles he promotes.
And that Uranus in Leo, Lee, is the authority Uranus, which has now turned into a game, whereby in the past it's been serious and been autocratic. It's now in Leo, Uranus.
It is,
and it's now a game show.
Okay, but in his 4th house, that will talk about discordance or throwing out his personal happiness in a domestic or private sense.
It's balancing his private life with.
He needs to use that. He needs to overcome that Uranus. Yes. He needs to overcome that Uranian energy, which in Leo can go either way. But you see, in this chart, it's below. It's not. If it were in the 10th house, we could see somebody who would be subject to falls or sudden turns of fortune. I actually think now he probably can't do any wrong. And also, Leo is royalty, and when we look at Britain's Got Talent, we see Simon Cowell trying to please the Queen in that he wants an act who can go before the Queen. This is very Uranus in Leo as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Because it's the jester Uranus, the jester and the wild card. And he actually has something called a wild card, I think. Is that in X Factor? I don't know. I'm getting mixed up. You can bring one of them back.
Yes.
But it is the court jester for the Queen or the King or the royal, and it suits his chart immensely. So the game that you talk about, it is like a game, and it's a game of pleasing the royals. Is it a Game of Thrones?
He's probably a second ray soul, which is love and compassion.
Yeah.
But overriding is the personality ray, which is probably ray 5, which is his judgmental facility.
his moon in Saturn, the most fascinating thing for me is the moon and Saturn here in the 8th house conjunct. But this moon in Sag, usually people with moon in Sag have a great sense of clowning or fun or sense of humour. But I think it's reined in all the time by that Saturn, which is the seriousness.
Yes.
Seriously, not worried about how other people, upsetting other people. I think he does kind of worry about upsetting other people to an extent, but which people? I don't think he worries about upsetting contestants.
And all those planets in the western hemisphere of the horoscope denote that this is a lifetime where the sun sets, so it's the ending of a cycle.
Yeah.
And a lot of his self-interest, a lot of interest in his life is not self-centered, it's centered in other people as well.
This is it. He can't help but be like that.
Yeah.
Now he's grown to such a pitch where he is in where before he may have harnessed or reined a vehicle to suit his own needs. Now that vehicle has him, he's running something which is much bigger than him.
But Libra is the house where things have to be finely balanced.
I think he's afraid of
relationships.
I think he's very afraid of ridicule, and I think this is what the moon Sag with Saturn says: is I'd like to be more open and more approachable.
Yes.
But the Saturn is, I'm afraid of ridicule. I think one of the best things to happen to him is David Williams coming onto the judging panel and making him in a nice way.
Yes, he's brought out the lighter side of Simon.
He's taken him back to He's taken him back to a schoolboy sort of level and it pays off. And there aren't many people who could have done that. But Simon Cowell is a force to be reckoned with.
He is, and I think he'll be around for a while.
I do, because I think he's got a major part to play in national and even international karmic matters. So that was Simon, and we hope you join us again next time for the next Celebrity Pod. If you want, we're not just interested in celebrities here. We will undertake work for anybody, everybody and anybody. So please visit perceptivity.co.uk for more information about our services.
And that was Lynn Shea and Peter Wakefield.
Thank you.